and welcome to Chatty AF, the anime feminist podcast. I'm Vrai. I'm an editor and contributor at Anime Feminist. You can find me on Twitter at WriterVry, where if you check my pinned tweet, you can check all the places I freelance, or you can check out my other podcast that I co-host at TrashPod. With me today are Caitlin and Peter, and we're here to discuss the end of the summer season, take a look back, and check in on the carryovers. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Caitlin. I am a writer and editor for the Anime Feminist podcast. I also run my own blog, Heroine Problem, and I write regularly about anime for the Daily Dot.
And I'm Peter. I'm an associate features editor at Crunchyroll and a contributor and editor at Anime Feminist.
Awesome. Wow, it has been a minute since I've been on one of these. These always end up going a little bit long, so we're just going to jump right into it. As always, you know, we only talk about the shows that people on staff are watching, and then at the end of the episode, we will do carryovers. Check in the show notes, so there'll be timestamps so you can jump to a particular show if you want to. Peter, you, as always, are watching the most stuff. Let's start at the bottom of our season premiere list and work our way up. So, How Not to Summon a Demon Lord.
Yeah.
I hear there was child slavery now.
Child slavery. I guess so. They, summoned the demon, but the demon's a little lolly girl, of course. And,
Of course.
I mean, the whole thing, I guess the ending kind of... It could have had a good arc in the anime with them, because, the two girls are enslaved to the guy by accident, haha. And they've been trying to take off the chains, but they've been having mixed feelings since they consider their slavery to him to be their meaningful connection to this guy that they both idolize, which is great.
Great, cool.
But then it turns out, the ending, I guess, it turns out the solution was more slavery. That's what they needed.
Of course.
Yeah, so the demon girl runs amok for a little bit, but they fix it, and everybody's concerned that she's going to go out of control, so they decide to also make her a slave to Diablo so that everybody can be sure she won't freak out again, because that makes sense. So he ends up putting a collar on her, too, and then they all live happily ever after.
Thanks, I hate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so terrible on so many levels.
Yep.
That is
Cool.
cool.
Don't
Great.
think we need to talk about that anymore. Let's bury it deep and pretend it never happened.
Yep.
Yay.
Good animation there.
All right. Master of Ragnarok and Blesser of Eijenheir, or whatever the super long title is.
Yeah. I don't know if there's anything to discuss that we really didn't discuss in the mid-season. It's got problems with the fact that all the girls are, just a harem for the guy. I think really the series' most large problem is that it's got pretty mediocre writing. The ending wasn't particularly problematic, so just the same thing as 6 episodes ago.
If you liked what you heard back then, you will continue to like it. If you did not, you probably will not.
Yeah.
Yes.
No new problems though, so that's good.
Hooray.
Yeah.
How about Island? Was I right?
Half. So he is her dad.
Yes. I called it.
Yeah. But he doesn't end up with her in the end. It turns out her mom also time traveled, and that's why she's there. And so he discovers that her mom was the real person that he had fallen in love with and had her as a kid. Her mom was just slightly older because she'd gotten out of her time travel chamber, I guess it says time stasis chamber, 10 years before. So instead of dating the girl 7 years younger than him, he dates the girl 13 years older than him and gets together with the girl that he was originally with when they were, I think there was still that age gap. She reversed the age gap on him. So yeah, he doesn't have sex with his own daughter.
Okay, but the visual novel database does definitely warn for an incest relationship, so I think in the video game you can indeed bang your own daughter.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of really questionable stuff you can do in the video game. Yeah, I guess it depends on who you decide to get through with, so this might be the hard ending where you have to go through extra steps to discover that the mom is actually your original girlfriend. And he gets together with her and they get married, and the other girl accepts that her mom's happy and she feels better about it or something, I guess. There's also, like, the implication... I actually think Island is pretty close to Devilman Crybaby in the way that its universe is structured. The
only way that they're close.
Well, the whole, like, cyclical time and humans evolving into the exact same people over and over again. Like, there's always the Akira. There's always the... Oh, my God, what was her name? Mio?
Miko.
Miko? Yeah, there's always a Miko. You know how there's always the same people every time?
Or Mika, there we go.
Yeah, Island does the same thing where there's an apocalypse, everybody dies, humans evolve, and then the exact same people come about in the exact same ways. But I guess the romantic subplot's completed, so you don't really need to worry about that. The fact that humanity keeps destroying itself and rebuilding.
Angels of Death. I got bored with this one 3 episodes in, but you finished it, yes?
I'm like 1 or 2 episodes behind. Again, I mean, just by what I've seen, not too much more to discuss. I don't think it's really problematic. They haven't really romanced the 2 characters together, besides the fact that they're kind of becoming important to each other. There doesn't seem to be any romantic subplot or anything like that with age gap. I mean, everybody's serial killers, but that's pretty obvious from the get-go, so...
Apparently, according to the big seasonal poll, they're the most popular ship after Ash and Eiji.
Yeah, well...
So that's a thing.
People ship things that they shouldn't, like Ochako and Bakugo. It doesn't mean it's realistic. It doesn't mean it's not problematic. But the important thing is that, or at least, unless I'm missing something major, the show has not done it.
Yeah. It's very weird to me that people are, like, good for them that people are enjoying this as kind of a campy show, but as somebody who likes a lot of camp trash, this show was just not ridiculous enough to hit that bar for me. We get to skip a couple now. So, Angels of Death, if you were liking it, you probably still like it. We get to skip up a couple now to... Dee isn't here, so Peter, it's on you to sing the praises of everybody's problematic fave of the season, Harukana Receive.
Again, I think nothing new from the mid-season. It is definitely a fan servicey show, but when they get to the sports sequences, it's very much on sportiness. The character subplots are... I mean, the writing itself is pretty good. It just has... the show is, like, narratively a good sports series. It just, they're all wearing bikinis, so it's got a lot of TNA in it. And there is definitely a Leary camera. It did the thing that Gamers did, where in the last episode there was a particularly large amount of fan service. I don't know if you saw my tweet with the screenshot from the last episode, where it had a very suggestive screen angle where a girl was helping another girl stretch, and they were both in their bikinis. Yeah, so yeah, there's fan service, but otherwise it's a pretty good sports series.
Yeah, all that fan service and their cousins. Somebody took the wrong lesson from all those Sailor Moon jokes.
Yeah, I think it does have a good subplot about, or like I guess the primary the thing that it ends with is they have to play. Only one team from Okinawa can go to nationals, and so they have to end up playing against basically the other duo in their volleyball club, and they go over this kind of thing where can they really play? One of them is essentially eliminating the other one from their chance of playing on a national level, and they are their fifth teammate is very concerned that will like break up the club, or they won't be able to be friends after that because it's kind of a big deal. And I'm glad that they addressed that, so I think that's good. A little bit extra TNA in the last episode, otherwise continues pretty predictably based on the first half.
But still that same kind of TNA, but fun and good at the actual sports.
Yeah, I think it's fun, and it doesn't ever like do the thing where girls are like, oh, I guess exactly once it does it, but not in the second half. The thing where like it embarrasses girls, or they like suffer sexual assault in the service of jokes or TNA, it doesn't do that. So that's good. Yeah, hooray.
Everyone's having a good time.
Yeah.
That's always nice. Like, the thing is that with fan service, like, I don't love it when it's just random shots of titty. But it's so much worse when it hinges on, like, embarrassing the character or, like, exposing them against their will.
Yeah. Or, like, outright sexual assault, like in
or
that
outright
one witch
sexual
show.
Assault.
Yeah. Yeah, so it doesn't do that.
Like,
that's good.
Gratuitous titty shots are not ideal, but they're probably one of the more harmless forms of fan service.
True. We've seen it. It can get a lot worse. So
yeah,
it's surface level.
We have a scale for that.
Mm-hmm.
So this show I kind of accidentally got skipped over last time, so we'll spend, I guess, just a couple more minutes giving it the full once over. Chio's School Road, which I was enjoying, and then wound up dropping 6 episodes in.
Yeah, so we didn't talk about it at all last podcast. I don't remember. Not a bit.
No, we forgot it.
Oh.
Straight up.
All right. Well, I guess it's... I have not caught up on it for a long time in myself. I'm like 4 or 5 episodes behind. But I guess it's... the series' main problem is the predatory lesbian.
Yeah, this series bummed me the heck out. Like, fuck, this show was depressing. Because I really enjoyed Chio and her friends. A, they were very shippable and adorable, and B, they were also these just really amusing shitlords who had kind of these relatable, bullshit conversations on the way to work. I enjoyed the escalation into weirdness that some of the better jokes could do. And then it just became, what it is a lot of times with this kind of show, I think, is the balance of how much is it doing well and how much is funny versus how much is just kind of toxic nonsense. And the ratio went downhill really quickly, where by like episode 5, it would be 1 good sketch and 2 really nasty ones. So like, yeah, there's the predatory lesbian character who is just straight up about the worst version of that trope I have seen since the 90s. There was also... It was also just kind of generally mean. Like, I think the last sketch I watched before I decided, okay, I guess I'm just done now, is there's a sketch that opens with Chio being upset because she goes to a convenience store and her Western gaming magazine has been replaced with some BL magazines. And like eventually the through line of the joke is she ends up thinking that the magazine is hot and she's embarrassed trying to figure out how to buy it. But like the lines leading up to it are like, the homos have taken over. And I'm like, well, this just came right after the predatory lesbian sketch. I'm not all right, I get what vibe you're putting out here, show. And there was also this weird, uncomfortable through line where there's a gangster character who Chio, like, inadvertently, who Chio keeps crossing paths with, and she, for various reasons, will end up helping him out for a bet or whatever, and not think anything of it, but he's slowly developing feelings for her, and it's really creepy because he's like a 35-year-old man.
Did it become romantic?
He definitely had a crush on her.
Yeah, that's weird. He's like 10 years older than her.
At least, if not 20.
Yeah, she's like 15 and he's like at least 24, 25.
It sounds like a Yakuza subplot.
Yeah, it was a bummer because like I enjoyed their kind of weird dynamic when it was just like she was desperately sweating her way through trying to look cool and freaking out about it, and he was inexplicably impressed, and like they played off each other well, and then they added the like, oh, is she into me? Oh no, she's a high school girl. Oh, I'm kind of into that. I'm like, did you have... I just came off of watching Hinamatsuri. Did you have to do this with it? Like, the panty shots, and the weird, just fetishy stuff. Like, there's a whole episode where she's trying to figure out how to go to the bathroom, and I'm like, this is somebody's fetish. So, it was just a bummer. Like, all the good, funny sketches got drowned out by just kind of the nasty vibes and the, and the boob nonsense and the fetish stuff. I'm so bummed out, because I ended up giving it kind of a tentatively positive review when we did the 3-episode check-in, and then it was like, oh no, directly into the, not even into the dumpster, into the garbage juice under the dumpster.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think the first episode was definitely one of the better ones, and it maybe gave a false impression of the series.
Well, I mean, episode 2 was really, really funny, and it didn't really have any fan service, and just a lot of good teenage girls being awful and being friends in a way that I liked. And that just couldn't survive all the other crap. Anything else to add on that one, Peter?
You pretty much summed it up.
All right, so that means we can finally go on to a show that everyone has watched, which is Asobi Asobase, which is the shitlord girl that I should have backed. Yes, Caitlin, you haven't gotten to talk, so you go first.
I mean, it's pretty much along the same lines as what we talked about in the mid-season episode. Nothing has really changed. A lot of it is just good, like, weird shitlord girl humor with an unfortunate sprinkling of transphobia every so often. But, you know, as you and other people have pointed out, Vrai, like, it's episodic, so, like, the transphobia, like, if you see it coming up, you can be like, oh no, next sketch.
Yeah, actually, I can tell you right now, listeners, if you're interested but you've been worried, you can skip the sketch Loaded Questions in episode 5 and basically all of episode 10, and you're pretty much golden. That character does show up in episode 7, but it's not like a joke on their transness. She's just manipulating the girls into stealing something for her, so
yeah,
that one's pretty watchable.
But it's I mean, it's just very, like, sharp sense of humor. And these girls are terrible without being. They've still got a weirdly endearing sort of part to them. Like, I've compared it to Always Sunny before, but they're not as terrible, awful people as Always Sunny. They're just really dumb.
Oh, they're so dumb.
They're so dumb. And just kind of in ways that are, like, kind of gross. And I say shitty, but not, like, actively malicious ever, except for, you know, the transphobia episodes.
It is. There is a little bit of, like, casual homophobia running through there, but in a way that. Because, like, what bums me out about the transphobia is the fact that the framing itself seems to back it up, as opposed to a lot of the jokes in the series are, these characters are idiots who don't know anything. Mm-hmm. And, like, the transphobia specifically has the narrator break in and talk about, like, Hanako's animal instinct sensing that this trans girl is dangerous, and I'm like, I hate that.
Yeah.
But, like, in episode 10, which, again, it's kind of not worth watching, but there is one really good joke where oh god, what's her name? The quiet girl with the glasses.
Kasumi.
Kasumi gets kissed by another girl, and she's freaking out, and Hanako puts her on trial until she finds out it's another girl, and she's like, oh, well, that's not a big deal. That's just like an extension of saying hi, and Kasumi has just like this 1,000-yard stare that I know very well from high school. Like, that moment is beautiful.
I also appreciate the Spanish Inquisition joke.
Yes.
Yeah. I was laughing about it last episode, but by the end I got a little bit tired of jokes about Olivia smelling bad.
Yeah, that they hammered that a little, like one or two. What it fits in with the tapestry of off-color jokes, but like they hammered on that a lot towards the back half.
Yeah, and like the pop-up cafe, like one of the drinks is called Olivia's Spicy Pits, and it's like, okay, guys, we get it. White people smell. Let's move on, please.
Right. It definitely started tilting to the point where I'm like, I sort of feel bad for any like mixed race kids in Japan watching this and feeling really bad about themselves now. I'm concerned.
Yeah, like it's something that like when I was studying abroad is something that like my fellow students and I would joke about, like the tall white guy talking about like how he like couldn't find deodorant and he felt really bad for like the short guy whose face is just right in his armpit during rush hour. But like eventually it's like it feels a little bit too much at people's expense, and like there are people who have to like deal with that in real life, you know, and have to deal with that stereotype.
Yeah. It's one of the rare jokes I think that ends up feeling like, well, it's not going to bother us over here in America, where white people, white people are all around us. But like, if you're living in Japan, I can imagine that being a little more hurtful,
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like, that was a little shitty, but overall, like, Asobi Asobase made me laugh harder than like 90% of comedy anything, really.
I don't usually laugh aloud at anime comedies, but audible laughter was had. It's really funny.
So I think it's a pretty solid recommendation, other than, the episodes that you listed,
Yeah. I am excited that apparently there's going to be an OVA, which hopefully Crunchyroll will get. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Because the last episode didn't feel like a conclusion or anything, which, it's an episodic series.
Was that the last episode? It just felt like the end of every other episode. So
yeah. I did love that the ending theme had the ultimate powerful monster.
The horrible hell doodle, yes!
It fits so well. I was like, wait, was that there this whole time and I just didn't notice?
No, it's there, and it's horrifying.
And I just love, I love everything about it. I love the bait and switch opening. I love the horrible, ugly faces that the characters make. I love that Hanako is just sitting there and thinking, I want to make the other girls say poo. Just spacing out, looking into the... and that's what she's thinking about. Those are the kinds of thoughts that she has. I just... I love it so much. It was a really, really fun series, and I'm going to miss it.
Yeah, and like you said, there is... It's not necessarily a sweet series, but there is a sense that these girls, they like each other. They have a block in their mind that's like, well, when they go too far, they feel bad. Or there's the really sweet episode with the girl from the occult club where her friend's in the hospital and they all agree to get together and help her do voodoo to help her friend feel better. And heartstrings were tugged. That episode was great. All right. What about Angolmois, which you dropped?
Yeah, I think I dropped it 4 or 5 episodes ago. I can't really think of anything bad to say about the series. It just didn't really keep my interest, and I didn't have any other compelling reason to watch it, so I dropped it.
Your watch list is definitely full.
Yeah, it's got solid action series, and no huge issues that I was really able to identify, so.
All right. Do you guys want to just jump to geeking out about kind of the dark horse of the season, then?
Planet With!
Yes. I did not watch this one, even though it sounds like you all had a nice time.
You're the only person who didn't watch it, and it was so good. I've seen a lot of people compare it to Gurren Lagann. But it is Gurren Lagann with a more, I think, ultimately compassionate outlook. It was Gurren Lagann was not anti-human, but anti-humanist, but Planet With is just, it's the series we need. You know what I mean? Just everything about it. The world needs some more positivity and hopefulness on the level that Planet With really brought. It made me feel better about life when I was watching it. And it's just, and I mean, even just talking about the philosophy of it, but also what an incredibly brilliantly crafted show. No fat on it, not a wasted minute. Super tightly plotted, but it didn't feel like anything was rushed or skipped over. It's just incredible economy of storytelling in all respects. Character development, plotting, writing, world building. It all felt there and it all felt complete. in 12 episodes with this story on such a grand scale. You know, it was really just absolutely amazing. Definitely one of the best series that I've ever seen.
I mean, it seems like I always miss like one really good show per season. I still haven't gone back to Girls Last Tour, and I need to.
Oh, I need to finish that. I need to finish Yorimoi too.
Yes, you do.
You didn't finish A Place Further? What the hell?
Okay, I had a lot going on. I didn't finish anything that season.
Yeah.
No, fair.
I think A Place Further is still like competing for my number one spot for the year. So. Yeah. Anyway,
the cat robot show.
Yeah, Planet With is really good. Going off what Caitlin says, I think its kind of central message is like being able to forgive other people and kind of like fighting for those you love, but in like a very kind of focused way. Because that's like a very, very general theme in shonen, right? Is, well, not forgiveness, but like fighting to protect your friends and stuff like that. And I feel like Planet With kind of analyzes that statement and kind of talks about what that means and why it's important. And really kind of, I think it the way it makes it stand out so much is it really kind of shows the alternatives to those kind of philosophies, and you really kind of see in the villains or like the de facto antagonists a lot of it seems very familiar, their kind of philosophies. I kind of thought that the first arc had a lot of kind of overtones of like the U.S. trying to convince North Korea to denuclearize, except in this case it's all of planet Earth that they're trying to take away their weapons, right? And you can kind of see, like, I mean, it's not trying to defend North Korea or anything, but kind of like this tyranny from above kind of idea that ostensibly comes from an idea of trying to protect, like, a larger community. And so, like, in the various enemies that they fight, you can see a lot of kind of these familiar, like, dynamics in our world, like, in global politics and stuff like that. And it's the heroes are kind of more of a, I don't want to say pacifist, but they're very focused on just trying to find a good reason to fight. I think that it really comes across in a way that it doesn't come across in a lot of shonen, especially considering it did that in 6 episodes and then moved on to the second plot that lasted another 6 episodes. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, very impressive, as Caitlin was saying.
Yeah, and, you know, there were a couple of things that really resonated with me in particular. One was sort of the issue of offering guidance versus creating limits. Do you know what I mean? Like, as someone who works with young children, like, you don't want to, like, you need to create boundaries, but at the same time you want them to understand those boundaries to the greatest extent that they developmentally can.
Yeah. Yeah, the General Amisimo he's very paternalistic in regards to humanity, while what's the cat's name? Something absurd. Yeah, that works better. Is kind of trying to guide and watch over humanity to make sure that they're okay. So
right.
See the
so
differences.
It's like, when you have like 2 kids who are fighting, like let's say 2 4-year-olds, like, who are fighting, like, you don't say, like, you don't turn around and just say, you can't do this. You turn around and say, look at the effect that this other person had on, like, that you had on this other person that you did, like, listen to what they're saying, and you want them to really understand why what they did was wrong. And it's sort of about the social emotional growth of humanity, teaching humanity to be compassionate, to be empathetic, and not by taking away the potential for them to be violent and warlike, but by saying the alternative, isn't it better to be creatures of love?
Yeah, it's not about taking away their tools, it's about showing them how to use them properly and trusting that they will if they're given the right guidance, kind of thing.
And that's sort of the tenets in that people in early education sort of try to follow these days, is an emphasis on social emotional education.
Yeah. One thing I really liked that they did was it seemed like the villains were almost looking for a way that they could fight humanity so that it would feel like a fight rather than what it actually was, which was just them taking away their like ability to be free-thinking individuals. So that came across as pretty like a villain thing. Like, when what's the main character's name? I forgot.
Soya?
Yeah, when Soya said he didn't want to fight, they were like, "What? Why? We need you to fight. Like, we need to fight you, because if we just do it without a fight, then what's the point?" And you're just like, wow, these people really want somebody to fight back so that they can feel like they defeated somebody rather than just came along and steamrolled an entire civilization, don't they?
Yeah.
That doesn't feel good.
Yeah, and it's, so I really liked that. And I really liked, there were a couple of other things. When Sensei and the Generalissimo were fighting, and they were like sort of yelling about their different philosophies while they were fighting, and Sensei doesn't say, "You're wrong, you're terrible, you're wrong about humanity." He says, like, "We are very different people," which sort of advances the idea, like, these are two different outlooks. These are two different approaches, and it's not about being right or wrong. It's about what you think is best. And that, I thought that was really interesting, because you get stuff like, you get your like hot-blooded series, and it's usually about like being right or wrong, about the different, like, even if it humanizes the other side and shows you how, like, you can see how they came to this conclusion, it's always still like, they're wrong, this is right. But in Planet With, like, I definitely know that they wanted you to come to the same conclusion as Sensei and the pacifist faction, the pacifist faction. Like, it was still like, we have different perspectives on this.
I did definitely see at least one person compare it favorably to Undertale, a game I love very much.
Yeah, I guess I could see that in the like warring philosophies kind of thing. Yeah.
I could definitely see that. And also the fact that Soya says, like, I am the only one who can forgive the dragon. Like, forgiveness is not something that you can just offer to anyone for anything. I can't turn around and say, I forgive you for being racist against black people, because that's not my forgiveness to offer, right? But as the person who was wronged, like, Soya is the only one who can offer forgiveness. And it is a series that is ultimately in favor of forgiveness, because that's the more peaceful option, but it still recognizes that forgiveness is a choice that only the wronged party can make.
Now I am curious if it like at least goes through the option of sometimes I feel like anime often fails to recognize that sometimes forgiveness puts a lot of pressure on the person who was wronged, like to make the person like to make their persecutor feel better.
Right. I don't think that was sort of what was going on with Planet With. I mean, I think that's partially a cultural thing. Mm-hmm. Forgiveness is very, very big is a major component of Japanese culture. Apologies and forgiveness and all of that. But I think I did not get that sense from Planet With, because the dragon didn't want to be forgiven. It wanted Soya to stay angry and to turn and to fight. The forgiveness was definitely Soya's choice. No one said to Soya, you have to forgive him. It was entirely the choice that he made.
Yeah, I think it's mostly from the perspective of kind of like cycles of perpetuating violence. So in that way, I think it was sort of advocating for forgiveness as opposed to continuing a conflict. And I get what you're saying. Like, if there is like definitely some one-sided victim stuff in there, but I don't think it was more looking at it on a scale of like political or like war rather than individual, where somebody could have done something to you and Yeah. I get what you're saying. Yeah, it doesn't.
Right.
It's not. It doesn't dive that
is
deep
a better
into
option
personal
than
things.
vengeance.
Yeah, it's not like a personal wrongs type level. I don't think.
Right. It's a larger. I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like it was a good series. So you two would both recommend it?
Definitely. Yeah. It's really good.
100%.
Yep.
And the universe is full of blessings. I love that. I love that line. I don't know, something about it just really it is something that could be trite, but the sincerity with which it is delivered really makes it work.
Vrai will definitely ship the judo girls too.
Oh
heck yeah.
Oh yes.
Cool. Well, I guess we better keep it moving along then. Cells at Work. This
That
show is cute.
It got dark in the last few episodes.
It did, yeah.
Who is this person, and why did they lack any sense of self-preservation?
They had heat stroke. They got severely bonked in the head apparently.
And almost died.
They're probably gonna have some permanent brain damage. What is happening
Because
here?
the implication was they lost over 1/3 of their blood through their head. So
Yeah.
that is a serious head wound.
Is this body on the run from the mob?
Yeah.
What is happening
What
to
is
this
going
person?
on? Oh, but I liked the show. I think was the hemorrhagic shock arc anime original.
Oh, I have no
I don't
idea.
know.
I think the manga is more lighthearted, and I think the anime went better have something big to end it. I don't know. I could be wrong. I
think it's ongoing. They probably just chose that arc as the conclusion to the anime because it's kind of a very. It's like probably the most dangerous conflict at that point in the manga or something.
Yeah.
I could see it going either way. I know that there is Cells at Work Black, which is apparently the dark and edgy version of the story.
I read that in Japan, and I hope it doesn't get translated. To be honest, it's pretty.
I heard it gets really gross.
Yeah, it's like when how red blood cells go to the liver to be cleaned, like when you drink and stuff. That basically your liver is a host club, where hot liver cells give you I think it's 8 ATH or whatever, the thing that that takes the alcohol out of them and turns it into a toxin, and then the guy gets gonorrhea, which is a giant hentai tentacle monster.
And lady white blood cell. So.
Yeah, it rapes all the white blood cells to death. So
great, love it, cool, fun, perfect.
Fun.
Yep.
And the platelets are child soldiers.
No, I think that was just a young white blood cell. I think I don't really remember seeing too much of the platelets in the black.
I feel
manga.
like I heard that in passing. It might be incorrect. It is the thing I heard.
It's pretty intense.
Yeah.
It does I think, show you how much the medication can really save our lives. But it definitely it definitely veers away from the cute territory into some pretty awful kind of sexist ideas, I think.
I will say, as the anime definitely never really shook that whole low-key gender roles thing, but it didn't bother me too much. It always felt like it was at least trying to balance characters of multiple genders in active and passive sorts of roles, and trying to show everybody can do something, that kind of thing.
Yeah, everyone has their role. Everyone has the function in society.
I do during the last episode, I was wondering, with all this stuff about how we need to work hard all the time, and these cells have their entire life as their job, will we be seeing what happens to cells in a body dying of karoshi, which is chronic overwork?
Well, I think that's black, because that's kind of what's happening.
Right. Well, because karoshi comes from a variety of factors, right? It's sleep deprivation, dehydration, malnutrition.
It's a sweet educational show. I just in the back of my head I was like, I wonder how this plays with Japan's work culture and the discussions being had at the moment about that.
Yeah, it's sort of the thing where the cells as people doesn't totally work because,
They don't
your
take
cells
breaks.
are constantly working because they're cells.
Yeah.
Cells don't rest because if cells rest, you die.
Right. I did appreciate the, I kind of liked the more, oh god, what is this person getting into episodes, because the ones that were a little bit more laid back felt like they lost the plot of the anthropomorphization, there we go, a little bit. Like the Killer T backstory episode is just, you just wanted to do the tuning exams in this anime, didn't you?
Yeah, god, that episode was boring. That was my least favorite episode.
Yeah.
And they do have the one where it's the red blood cell trying to do her job by herself, and the white blood cell follows her around. Actually, no, that one ended pretty good.
That one was pretty
That
good.
one was more instructional about
Friends,
how your heart works.
and
Yeah.
I'm happy for them.
But yeah, the Killer T backstory one doesn't really make sense in context.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't really work with the analogy.
It was like, this is how these two characters who hate each other are actually friends, but they hate each other. You're just like, all right. Cool. All right.
What does this teach me about the human body?
Yeah. All I know is that
Not a lot.
apparently one of them became a major asshole, so I really don't care anyway.
Yeah.
That toxic masculinity.
The
No.
toxic masculinity cell.
I didn't know killer T cells are where toxic masculinity comes from.
I mean, that's what the T is for.
Yeah.
A lot of jokes were made in our house about AIDS because we're terrible.
Oh, jeez.
And that kills T cells.
Yeah. Well, at least a natural killer can help you out.
I
will say,
NK cell is wonderful. Bri, you weren't on the show last time when we were talking, when I was yelling about NK cell being my wife.
She's a good wife goals. Yes, excellent. Good. Her strong
Wife goals
arms.
are
Please
life-
hold me. It's good.
Anyway.
I will say, I don't think that the cancer episode works. I really don't.
No, I mean, not like, it's interesting in that it kind of shows that, yeah, your body creates cancer cells all the time, but usually takes care of that. But humanizing the cancer cell didn't really work.
I understand how destigmatizing cancer can be helpful from a research angle, but my mom worked with cancer patients, and I heard horrible stories of all throughout my childhood growing up. So for me, cancer is not the sad moe mutant animal boy. It's
Don't
Jeff
I
Goldblum
have a
in
right
The Fly.
to live? Don't I have a right to live? No.
No, you don't.
No.
Die.
Because you're going to do horrible things and kill everyone, ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel sorry for cancer.
What
But
the fuck?
that episode did bring us NK cell, so...
That's true, and she is very good.
You can't tell, but I'm doing a weighing hands back and forth motion.
Strong argument.
Mm-hmm.
And, gosh, that finale was really good, though.
Yeah.
It was very good.
I enjoyed that the blood transfusion was apparently from somebody from Osaka, and all of them were speaking in the dialect. That was good.
It kind of warms my heart a little bit to hear people going I want to take better care of myself, so the anime girls who live in my blood will be happy.
Yeah.
All right. Whatever works for you.
Yeah, whatever
I need to
excuse
take
you
care
need
of my
to
wife
beat your
NK
vitamins.
cell.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think it's... There's always that low-key gender stuff. If that bothers you, it might not ever stop bothering you, but mostly it's a really cute, chill show that was fun to watch every week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which brings us to our top categories, where I think we'll probably, we'll probably get into it a little bit here. Peter, you are the only one still watching HANEBADO. Caitlin, you dropped it.
Yes. I dropped it a while back.
Man, HANEBADO's good. It's really good. I was actually pretty prepared to drop it. I think around the place where Caitlin dropped, or where did you drop it, Caitlin? D dropped around 3, I think.
No, it was 4 or 5.
Okay. Where it just seemed like all their problems were being easily solved and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. That turns out that didn't
And
happen.
it just wasn't... and it just wasn't fun.
Okay.
They met the American girl.
Connie. She's
Connie.
German? Austrian? Something like that.
I don't know. The blonde girl.
Yeah.
And it just, I just wasn't enjoying it, you know? Like,
Okay.
It's not even that, like, sorry, don't have time in my life to watch anime that I'm not loving.
Yeah.
You know?
Mood.
Yeah, well, Connie's actually one of the stranger points to the writing for me, because she really pivots to wanting Hanasaki to become her sister or something like that. But where I feel the anime is really strongest is that it constantly had characters kind of steamrolling what Hanasaki wanted to do, like her friend forced her to join the club, and she said she wasn't interested, but everybody kind of said, but you're so good, you should play. And it turns out that was a terrible idea. She didn't enjoy herself, and now she's miserable. And now she's taking revenge against all the people who have caused her grief in the past. So, I'm not saying what she's doing is right, but I do definitely think that the series is trying to say, like, hey, if you force somebody to do something they don't want to do, even if they're good at it, it could potentially be harmful for them, and that might come back to bite you in the ass, too.
If you force someone to watch an anime they don't want to watch.
Yeah.
Wait, is HANEBADO at 2 core?
That's 1 core. It's probably gonna. It has 1 episode left because it was delayed due to the earthquake in Hokkaido. So I think the last episode will be
completely
tomorrow.
reasonable.
Yeah. So I think the finale will be tomorrow, which would be the 30th of September.
So is it going for a dark ending, do you think, or is it going to try and like turn the ship around at the last second?
I wrote an article about the possible ending. I think no matter what, the ending will be good. But I feel like it has a real cool opportunity to. Basically, Nagisa is playing against Hanasaki, and the reason Nagisa is playing is because she wants to kind of defeat herself, because she lost to Hanasaki before, and in the last moment she just kind of gave up on the game because she hadn't scored a point yet. It was like 41-0, and she's just like, I'm never going to get a goal, I might as well stop. And she kind of always regrets that, so she's trying to play her again and kind of overcome her previous self. And she took a round off of her, so she's obviously doing a lot better this time. And Hanasaki wants Nagisa to lose so that Nagisa starts hating badminton as much as she does. So obviously that's not going to happen. I think it's probably going to end with Hanasaki kind of turning like things around and at least appreciating the reason other people love badminton, or the fact that she's not actually alone. I think probably the best ending would just be her going, badminton's really just not for me. But I respect people who like it. I'm not going to play anymore. But it could just go with, she magically finds a reason to enjoy the game, and that's fine. Which could be a little bit problematic, since that was basically her mom's plan in abandoning her for like 10 years or something, which is really fucked up. Yeah, her mom was worried that she was playing badminton just for her. So she left so that Hanasaki could learn to play for herself or some bullshit like that.
That's terrible parenting.
Yeah, she said...
That is like a grade A anime parenting move.
Yeah, she said, I know what I've done is unforgivable, but I enjoy badminton so much I want my daughter to know like the same feeling or something like that.
Jesus.
And, yeah.
That is next level, imposing your wishes on your child.
A little bit. So, yeah, if she ends up liking the sport, that could effectively justify what her mom's done maybe a little bit. But I think it could still be a decent ending, even if it goes for that. I think the best ending is Hanasaki just going, like, turns out I just liked playing a game with my mom, who I really respected back then, and not so much the game itself. But we'll see. Overall, the series, it's got some strange writing moments in it, but I really like what it's doing, and it's really kind of over the top and great. So I think it's an amazing show. Possibly, it's like up there with Planet With for my favorite of the season.
Cool. So people may be able to check in with how it ended with you on when we put out our season Rex list, maybe.
Yeah, it's definitely going on my Rex list, yeah.
Cool. All right, Caitlin, next one is Banana Fish. Do you want to go first? Because I'm going to scream.
Oh, Vrai.
Is that the good kind of scream, or the bad kind of scream?
No, it's not the good kind of scream.
Oh, no.
Vrai has been very down on Banana Fish. It hasn't really changed from what I said in the mid-season episode. The show definitely feels more... So I haven't read... I have the first volume of the manga. I have more of it on order, but it's all back-ordered. The show definitely feels more at ease when it is the relationship between Ash and AG. And I think most people will agree that that is sort of the heart of the series. And all of the gangster stuff is not extraneous, but it is not what the series is about.
Yeah, it's purely mechanistic to cause angst.
Which, like, I don't think there's a problem necessarily with that. Like, I mean, all of the sexual assault and the sexual danger is not ideal, not great. But, like, I think having sort of that being a way of creating this conflict where this one very, like, troubled, dangerous person develops this very intimate relationship with someone who is open and trusting, that is at once redemptive and not. It's not saving him. It's not fixing him or even really healing him. It's just that now he has this person who he can drop his guard a little bit more with. And I think that is, I like those kinds of stories. Mm-hmm. I like stories where the troubled bad boy is not someone who is personally dangerous to the person who the focused relationship is with, but is still, like, kind of a scary, dangerous person overall.
Right. It's like the platonic ideal of the bad boy is...
Right.
He's terrible to the world, but he's gentle to you.
Right. He's not a bad boy, and in presenting as him being horrible or insulting to the person that they have that relationship with. It is everyone else. And the part where AG, like, set up the Halloween party with all the pumpkins was really cute. Mm-hmm. So, like, overall, I am enjoying it. I know that you feel like it does not compare favorably to the manga in a lot of ways, right? Though, Vrai?
Yeah, so I am a fan of the manga. I'd actually probably recommend the manga in the same kind of way that we ended up recommending Fushigi Yugi when we did the watch-along. You know, it's this, in many ways, dated, problematic work, but the parts of it that are raw and real and tender are really powerful and effective, and I like it a lot. It's extremely readable. The manga also has the benefit that you can kind of speed through the nonsense crime business and get to the other parts. And also it's Yoshida uses a lot of negative space. She doesn't really draw a lot of backgrounds, so the framing of the panels has this almost kind of cinematic quality where you can imply, like, a lot of silence and thought to sit with serious moments that the anime just doesn't have time for. So, like, stuff that is still really loaded content in the manga. Manga feels like it's less luridly treated. You know, something like the very early scene where they talk about Ash's past, with being forced into child pornography, that goes so quickly, and the anime is technically the same number of shots in the manga, but it has this much closer focus on Ash's face and, like, just his face in a blank frame, so you're, you know, kind of drawn to sit with those panels and sit with what that means before you rush through to the next thing. So the anime has been so frustrating for me because I really like the manga. I feel like it's caught in this place where it isn't allowed to break too far from the manga. I think you guys mentioned this on the last podcast, but the producer is allegedly a really big fan and has been, like, working to get this done for years, for like 10 years. It was their dream project, and allegedly, you know, Utsumi, I think it was Utsumi, I'll dig up the interview where all this is talked about, and Peter, if you could link it in the show notes. But they were kind of joking around of like, oh, this producer would get mad at us if we even changed the order of the lines. And I'm like, that doesn't bode well for translating something, for adapting something that's 30 years old.
No.
And yet at the same time, like what strikes me is purely to get more people to watch it because they thought it wouldn't sell as well as a period piece. That's just my interpretation, but that's what it screams to me. Like they did this kind of half-assed modern update, so it's neither or. And I don't care about exact adaptations most of the time because different mediums need to do different things, especially when a work is this old and parts of it have aged so poorly. I would love to see a radically different Banana Fish anime that changes a bunch from the manga, but because it insists on being so letter of the law in some ways, it has made me more irritated about the ways that it slips up and kind of does a half-assed job or inexplicably does some things exactly the same, like slavishly, and then other things like, so the big important scene right before the mansion, before Ash shoots up the mansion and burns Shorter's body and all of that, and Eiji's like, I'll always wait for you. So in the manga, that the layout of that scene is they're getting into the getaway trucks, and Ash is all kitted up to go, with his Rambo guns, and Eiji leans out the window and he's like, I'll always wait for you, and it's like this big dramatic 80s movie moment, and then the anime changes it to, they're standing 5 feet apart in a parking lot because they're not gay. I would understand it if it was changed to they're in the same frame, they're very close to each other, that's a more intimate framing, but this is just like this weird halfway measure that is neither something new and interesting nor the original thing that worked, and that encapsulates so much of the anime for me.
Right.
So I did think I did think episode 11, the one with the pumpkin, worked pretty well. I thought that it captured the softness of it captured the soft moment. It cut well around the action scenes. Thank you, anime. We did not need that scene where Ash walks into Harlem and the members of Kane's gang are all gathering around him and threatening to sell him into white slavery because he's so special and pretty. Thank you for cutting that. I will say I am bitter because, the Amazon subs have been throwing in the F slur because seemingly just because the terrible 90s translation of the manga did. But, the Amazon translators knew better to throw in, to do the other thing the terrible manga translation did, which was throw in the N-word for flavor text.
Cool.
Saying. It was cool and great. So, yeah, the anime is currently, I think it hit the end of volume 8 at the end of episode 12. So it's got 12 episodes left, I think. 12, maybe 14, to do, 10 volumes worth of stuff. And it's just, I don't have a lot of faith in it improving, even if the directing seems to have been... I feel so bad for Utsumi. I think she might be in over her head, and I don't think she's a bad director, but...
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about Utsumi a little bit more when we talk about the new season of Free, right?
Oh, yes. So that, sorry, I needed to get that off my chest. I'm ride or die. I'm watching this thing till the end, but it's killing me in my heart. And while I'm at it, Eiji's new design is cute, but it's it's the fact that it's so much less kind of scrappy and frizzy than the manga designs kind of makes him a little more bland than his manga counterpart, and that bums me out sometimes.
Oh,
yeah.
I think he's cute.
He is. He's a cute, nice boy, but he's manga Eiji is sassy, and that's there in the anime, but it's very softened.
Interesting.
Okay. So the last two, Caitlin, you've watched one, and I have watched the other. Do you want to do Phantom in the Twilight first, just because I just talked everybody's ear off?
Sure. I love Phantom in the Twilight. It's a really fun sort of otome-ish series. I say otome-ish because it really feels like romance is secondary. All the boys are like they're attached to her, but they're not like all obsessively in love with her. It is more plot driven than character driven, which I think is sort of an interesting. It's sort of an interesting hybrid of like supernatural romance, otome, and just sort of like action, sort of supernatural action fantasy, urban fantasy is the phrase that I'm looking for. I love Tone. She's so good.
Yeah, this wasn't like an anime I consciously dropped. I actually did watch the first 3 episodes, and I adored Tone. She's great. I just didn't have time to watch the rest of it.
Right. The boys don't violate her boundaries at all, as Dee pointed out in the last one. Like, she was talking to Luke, the werewolf boy. He was talking to her, and she's like, "Are you flirting with me?" He's like, "No. It's no fun flirting with someone who's like down. I'll flirt with you when we're both into it."
What a good boy.
He's such a good boy, and I like wolf boys just in general. I don't know, it's a thing. But like, Tone is never sidelined or shoved out of the action. She is an active character, and even when the boys try to be like, "Oh, I'll protect you," like, so, like, step aside, this is too dangerous for you, I'll protect you, like, Vlad the vampire at one point says that to her. Michi insists that his name is Brad.
Good.
Because Vlad and Brad are the same in katakana.
Yes.
I never thought of that. So Brad tries to be like, "Oh, I'm like, you need to step aside, this is too dangerous for you." And she looks at him and she's like, "You know, you might be an immortal vampire, but you haven't had human blood in a long time, so I could probably take you." And she just looks him dead in the eye and threatens to kick his ass if he doesn't step aside.
Excellent.
So, you know, it was just a very, very fun romp with a really great female character and a great cast all around. And her motivation is to protect her best friend and to save her best friend. So it's got a very strong sort of friendship between women thread going, even though Xin Yao is out of the action for most of it, and they're not together, but like, Tone's trying to save her friend, and I'm sure I'll catch some heat from some people for not calling them girlfriends, but oh well.
I mean, both are good. They had strong chemistry, and also they're very good friends, and it's good.
Yeah. No, like, so yeah, it's a super fun series that I really recommend on, like, there's nothing to not recommend it. The animation isn't great. It's a Chinese co-production, and those never have the best animation, except, I guess, for Last Hope, because Kawamori.
Xin Yao kind of had a slightly more, like, traditional, I guess, getting saved romance with the anti-hero character, didn't she? Did that shake out okay?
Chris, the other wolf boy.
Ah.
Yes. Kind of. It's he also gets sidelined, like, he gets knocked out, so it really is mostly about Tone and her boys sort of trying to save her.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
it does have a shot where in order to save her, Vlad, like, disappears into her crotch.
Okay.
Which is kind of weird. I feel like there are some unexamined implications to that.
Alright. Bold anime. Bold.
I mean, it's like, her lower half is like clouds, but it's definitely where her... I'm sorry, why am I so crude? What happened to make me like this?
Just saying that if you really want to save the love of your life... I can't finish that joke, it's too filthy.
Send your boyfriend into her crotch. Anyway. But yeah,
Real partners eat out.
It's a good show. It's a good show. Good.
So if people were into, like, the nice boys of Code Realize, but maybe wanted a slightly more active heroine, this is definitely one for them.
Yes, absolutely. Because in Code Realize, while Cardia becomes more active, she's not really capable of, like, she still needs to be rescued in the end. Mm-hmm. Tone does not have that issue.
Yeah, Cardia was great. Tone is just, you know, sometimes you want a protagonist who's on the front lines.
Mm-hmm. Like, and, you know, you can have both. There's room for both in the world. And I'm happy both exist.
Okay, I guess that brings us to the last new show of the season, Revue Starlight, which, Caitlin, you didn't end up watching this one because High Dive is High Dive?
Yeah, and that's unfortunate because there's some other shows that I really want to watch next season that are on High Dive. But yeah, I am lazy and did not watch it.
I mean, fair enough. High Dive's really... I loved this show. It's definitely my pick of the season. But High Dive's release of it has been really frustrating in that, you know, it's kind of a musical. The Image songs are a really big part of the series. And it started out with, like, there were some issues apparently with the Japanese side providing scripts of the songs later than the rest of the later than the dialogue, so it would go up.
I think lyrics have their own whole licensing thing. Mm-hmm. It's weird. They're like it's part of the reason why most series on Crunchyroll don't have theme song lyrics.
Well, it became this thing where, like, when the series started out, it would be like 2 days later the song lyrics would be the video would be updated and the song lyrics would be on there, which is, you know, it's fine. I understand that there are issues on the back end, but when I finished the show this morning on episode 12, episode 11 still did not have its music lyrics updated.
Cool.
And, yeah, and there have been other issues. Dee did a tweet talking about how there's one character who is the cute, adorable, you know, she's in love with her friend and she has an unrequited crush. And High Dive did this really weird translation on a line that was, you know, it was, I really am in love, and it didn't have a subject. And the official subs translate it, I really do love it. And she's clearly talking about her friend Karen, and Dee had this whole tweet line about how it really should be a little more ambiguous, like, I really am in love, because she's talking about her feelings for her friend. What are you doing?
And I remember the first episode had some pretty serious translation issues, too.
Yeah, and while I'm here, the end credits had evolving lyrics, but that wasn't actually translated. They just did the normal switch back and forth between Romanji and English, even when the lyrics were unique to the episode. So yeah, it's been a really frustrating release, which is a shame, because Revue Starlight is great. I really loved it. I am kind of convinced at this point, between this and Yurikuma Arashi, which the head director of this series worked as an episode director on that one. But I am now convinced that surreal kind of series like this need two core to work. I think Revue Starlight ultimately nails it emotionally. Like, I felt satisfied by the ending, but its metaphors are kind of so floaty that when you get to the, you know, a show that is like this but has two cores can spend like the first dozen episodes or whatever talking about, here's some weird stuff, but mostly it's kind of a grounded series, and then it can ramp up into, all right, we've gone full into Metaphorville, and everything is weird and roses and crows, and it's a lot.
Right, you gotta have the student council arc before you can have the Black Rose arc.
Right, whereas like Revue Starlight was so crunched for time that it kind of had to do the school idol stuff and the weird surreal duel stuff simultaneously, so there would occasionally be this disconnect of, what is this a metaphor for? How is this, in what order is this happen? Wait, stop, go, back. It worked, but I would have preferred if they could have taken a little bit of a more measured pace. I really loved the characters. It's visually just gorgeous. the episodes I got to see where the song lyrics were translated were, not like hugely plot revelation things, but they were strong thematic elements that there maybe wasn't time to crunch into the dialogue, so the music wove really well. The visuals on the duels were this absolutely brilliant thing, where all of the special effects are done as if they were special effects in a stage show, so, a shower of sparks is actually just confetti thrown from a cannon off stage. It's really smart and inventive. It gave me feels as somebody who has a theater degree. There's a lot of potent emotions in here about...
I mean, I should watch it on that level, too, because I talked about it in my preview review.
It doesn't really come... It's not really a hard critique of the Takarazuka or theater in general, but it does lean that way now and then. There's one episode that at least tries to poke at the fact that the Musume Yaku is pretty much tied to the Otoko Yaku role, and like that person is never going to get the top spot because that's not how Takarazuka works. Like, they are a pair, but it's the Otoko Yaku who is the star, and the Musume Yaku supports her. So there's like some light commentary, and it definitely made me nostalgic for theater in like the same way that watching Princess Tutu makes me miss dancing. Also, it's really gay. They don't, Karen and Hikari don't kiss, but there is a lot of dialogue about how, she was, you were what I was seeking, and throw away everything for me, and we're finally, and I'm like, oh, they're in love, and it's beautiful. Like, it's very Utena-esque. It's excellent and good, and it gave me feelings. So, yeah, I definitely wholeheartedly recommend this one. I can't really think of anything that was a drawback. This did teach me that it's not that I hate idol shows because I hate idol shows. I just hate shows about the idol industry. Because this definitely is structured kind of like an idol show in some certain ways.
Definitely marketed like one too. If you go to Akihabara, they have like it's got all the same type of posters and advertisements that idol anime have. I think they're maybe even making a game. I saw something that looked like a game on like a cycling video up on one of the buildings. So there might be a gotcha.
It's slightly different in that it has a clear protagonist and then like secondary, tertiary other girls rather than being like a stronger ensemble, which is my experience with more traditional idol shows, but the backbone of it is there.
Definitely, yeah.
All right, so yeah, that's my recommendation on that one. Look forward to it on the look forward onto it on the Season Rex page also, which brings us to wrap up of ongoing shows. Peter, did you want to talk about Attack on Titan?
Sure. I feel like it's weird. I don't have much to say about this season, despite the fact that probably more has happened in this season than anything has happened in the rest of the show period. Like, I guess we can go into spoilers. Like, the country was overthrown, but I guess it's just like the main characters essentially had nothing to do with it. So it just kind of felt like they were just kind of running around while big things were happening around them. I guess that's kind of true. Most of the show, the scouts don't seem very good at their jobs, to be honest. But I guess there's just one thing that I kind of irked me when I was watching it, that I think needs to kind of be addressed. They have this whole thing about how the current regime, they like replace the king with like this stooge who's just like a puppet king, right? And they're talking about how they need to overthrow it and restore it with the like real royal family, the real royal bloodline, which of course is Historia. I can't remember what her fake name is anymore because they just started calling her Historia all the time. Krista, yeah. And that's cool. I mean, it was pretty obvious they were corrupt. I mean, in like the first 3 episodes, you learn that they like basically sent half the population just as fodder to die to the Titans so that they wouldn't run out of food earlier on. So obviously the people running the country weren't that great, but the way they frame it is kind of just like the guy doesn't have royal blood, so he shouldn't be king, not like he's a bad guy or they're corrupt. So Krista should be the leader because she has the right blood in her, and they really don't address the fact that, she's more compassionate or anything like that. It all just comes down to blood, I guess, which seems really shitty.
Yeah, I wound up I dropped the show after season 2. Other people have talked about the directions this show goes in, but I'm gonna go ahead and let that lie, because I stepped back from all of this.
Yeah. Oh, there's definitely even worse stuff on the horizon. I don't know how that's going to be addressed in the anime, but the manga definitely seems to imply some things that could be super problematic later on. Guess we'll tackle that when it arrives, though.
Have fun with that. On what I'm sure is to be a much cheerier note, Free? How's Free been without Utsumi?
I miss Utsumi Free. It's like, it's a different show. One that I don't enjoy very much. I watched the whole thing for some reason. No, because I love those boys and I wanted to see what happened. But the thing is that High Speed, the prequel movie, never came out in America. Mm-hmm. Like, literally, it was impossible to see legally until this summer. A couple of conventions played it. For 3 years, no one bothered to release it. Mm-hmm. And familiarity with the characters is sort of hinges on free Dive to the Future, which I like to abbreviate as DTF.
Despite the total lack of thirst in
yeah,
this season,
like,
as I understand.
Like, it moves from sort of that. Free was my happy place. It sounds like a silly thing to say, but like, watching the first two seasons of Free, like, it made me feel happy. It was my Iyashike anime. It was just sort of this very good mix of, like, perfect mix of, like, comedy and, like, light character drama and sincerity and muscles. You know, it sort of struck this very perfect balance. And, you know, Utsumi is she is a very talented director in a lot of ways, and her genuine love for the material really shone through very strongly, and it was just sort of, it was simplified, but in a way that made it feel almost more solid. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Am I making sense? I don't know.
Yeah.
But Free DTF, it's very uninterested in that. Like, it has very little comedy. It has very little fan service. It's all just character melodrama, and none of their motivations really make sense. Like, why are all of these, like, 18, 19-year-old boys obsessed with the Little Mermaid? Why do they want to be the Little Mermaid? What is going on? This doesn't make sense. I'm confused and scared and upset. And why are they all wearing clothes?
They're in college now. Now it's for those of us who are a little weirded out. Now is the time.
Like, and the characters, like, they don't feel like the characters that I fell in love with, and it's just also not a very well crafted series. Like, it's spread way too thin, and I feel like 90% of the script is characters talking about what other characters are doing instead of doing things themselves. Like, the penultimate episode, finally, like, Nagisa and Ray back in Iwatobi had like 30 collective minutes of screen time leading up to the penultimate episode where they were going to nationals, and I wanted to be excited for them. I wanted to share in the triumph that these characters had, and they were standing there and they were talking about how they worked so hard and learned so much over the last year, and it's like, when we only saw you standing around talking about Haru and Ikuya, like, what is going on? Or Makoto having a genuine crisis. He doesn't want to swim anymore. Like, he's still feeling kind of adrift while he's watching Haru's swimming evolve, and like, we get one episode devoted to that. Like, what is this is not the character driven drama, and like, Ikuya's issues were resolved so quickly because he swam against Haru, and all of a sudden he was fine again. You know, like, or Sosuke has this whole talk about, like, his shoulder recovering with this one guy, Natsuya, like, they have this whole conversation. Natsuya is like, well, you know, if you get the surgery, it's really risky and you might never be able to swim again, or you could do the recovery the long way, which will take a while, but... And we don't see him weighing the decision. We don't see him deciding to get the surgery. We don't see him recovering from the surgery. Just one day he sits down with Rin, because Rin is back in Japan. He's like, oh, it's a success. Like, there's no showing. It's all telling. And it's just not... It's not the show I fell in love with. And I'm sorry, I'm actually getting genuinely kind of emotional about how disappointed I felt by it. The characters that I felt like I knew weren't there. Like, in the first 2 seasons of Free, I very strongly headcanoned Haru as autistic for, like, various reasons, but it just, his body language, his sort of single-minded interest, like, his relationships with the people around him sort of reminded me of, like, my friendships with autistic, with autistic people. It's not just this sort of like, oh, he's obsessed with water, he must be autistic. Like, it is drawn on his whole deal as a person, and I didn't get that same vibe in this season. He didn't feel like Haru. Like, all of a sudden he's like smiling at everyone, and like, where is that sort of kind of reticent, unexpressive, but ultimately good boy that I loved in the first season? And god damn it, why is Makoto wearing clothes all the time? It's not, it's just, it's not there, and it just doesn't, it feels like the new director, Kiwanami, I think his name is, had a very different idea for what he wanted to do with Free, which I guess is fair, like, but it was not what I loved about Free.
It's a bummer, and there's more coming in 2020.
No. Stop, it's already dead.
I'm sorry, I can't stop laughing at the fact that promo image looks like the promo image from Sweet Pool, the Cronenberg Meat Baby game. I'm sorry, I know it's genuinely painful.
I know it's supposed to be pretty sunset colors, but it looks like they're swimming in piss.
Oh god. I think that's the best point where we could move to the wrap up with My Hero Academia. How the super kids doing?
Pretty good.
That's it. That's all we have to say about that.
Yeah, I don't know if there's too much. I mean, it's still pretty good. I think it's kind of in an action lull right now. Go for it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I have some slightly stronger opinions about My Hero Academia.
Cool.
Also, I love My Hero Academia. I watch it every week with my fiance. It is a lot of fun. I genuinely really enjoy it every week. But it has sort of moved more into a more standard sort of shonen pacing. Listen, there's nothing wrong with it, but I don't love it. I don't love shonen. I kind of crave more of just that, kids being super powered kids that we had in the first season. And also, as it has gotten more towards, several people wrote whole articles in season 2 about how the show sort of treats its female characters better than most shonen. And that has completely disappeared. The girls are routinely sidelined now that it has moved more into the standard shonen arc structure, and the focus has gone towards Todoroki, Bakugo, and Midoriya, which is really disappointing because they're good girls. I love Tsuyu, and everyone loves Tsuyu, so why don't we get more Tsuyu?
Well, we got 1 episode for her, and it was really boring.
Yeah, it was not a good episode. So, it's just like, I still really, really like the series. But the stuff that made it really, really special, has sort of evaporated.
Yeah, I get that. I personally have felt like I'm still in it, but I do feel like it's giving the girls less time. And from my awareness of the things that happen in the future, I don't really know if the girls end up keeping up with the boys in any kind of appreciable way. In that area where it was very exceptional, I don't know if it's really going to keep that up, which is a little disappointing.
It's a lot disappointing.
Still in it for the long haul?
Yeah. I mean, it's still a quality shonen, and it does a lot of things that other shonen do better, I'd say. It's like probably in the top 3 and running in Shonen Jump right now. No, is that true? Maybe top 5 for sure. Yeah, I'll say top 5.
I mean, it's a huge hit in the U.S. too.
Yeah, and it's definitely, I think its movie is doing really well right now. I'm actually going to see it later today. It like hit 2 million in test screenings or something like that, so now it's going to get a larger release, which might mean very good things for future theatrical releases for anime movies, which could be good for us all. So it could definitely contribute to anime in that way.
Yeah.
All right, well, this has gone mega long because the season wrap-ups always do.
Because that's what happens.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for being here today, and thanks to all of you out there for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, you can find more of us at SoundCloud by searching for Anime Feminist. I believe we're also on Apple Podcast and all those other services. If you really liked it, you can always pitch us $1 at our Patreon, which is patreon.com/animefeminist. We've broken even, but we hear you. We would love to do more things. We would, and pay our contributors more, but unfortunately, we need money to do that because we are a very small team. So every dollar helps. It gets us closer to being able to transcribe these podcasts or pay people to translate articles in Japanese that we could put on the site and all that kind of exciting stuff. So we really appreciate your support. Couldn't do it without you. You can also read more of our articles in print at www.animefeminist.com. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/animefem, on Tumblr at animefeminist.tumblr.com, and on Facebook at animefeminist. Thank you so much. And oh my god, we are now about to turn around and tomorrow start on the fall premieres. So, look forward to that, listeners.
Good luck.
See you next time.